How you can help. Explicit instructions for dismantling the two-party system in 2026. My name is Danielle Church, and we are unfucking the world. Welcome, my friend. I hope you'll forgive me if this is a jarring change in tone. I honestly thought when I wrote the script of the previous episode that it might well be the last chance I'd get to say anything to you. I had contingency plans for if the response was mediocre. I put a lot of thought into how I could gracefully fade away back into my anonymous corner of the internet if it turned out no one was listening. All I can say is, I am so very sorry I underestimated you. By the time launch week was over, UTW had over 100 subscribers across all the platforms that track that kind of thing. We crossed the 200 mark within days after it ended. The Facebook page is now past 1,000 followers, and it shows no signs of stopping. The entire production team was astonished by the strength of your response. Thank you seems insufficient, but for lack of anything better, thank you. I'm also experiencing a very strange kind of time dilation right now. For you, it has been 2 weeks since I posted the previous episode, perhaps even less than that since you first listened to it. For me, it has been 3 months since I wrote its script, having no clue what the turning of the season would bring. It was very surreal to be editing a document in the very same folder as though I were the very same Danielle Church who wrote the words, "You are not alone." Before I get any further, I'd like to announce a couple logistical changes for Unfucking the World. First, I've shuttered the Discord server, Reddit sub, and Facebook group. I very much appreciate those folks who did poke their heads in, but some very insightful listeners correctly pointed out that it would perhaps be a bad idea to keep a centralized list of people who are actively working on helping with UTW anywhere. From now on, you can follow UTW on Substack, Facebook, or Blue Sky, and you can subscribe to UTW on Substack, YouTube, or a podcast platform, but I'm not going to ask you to join UTW. That doesn't mean you won't be hearing from me, though. Starting now, Unfucking the World will be moving to a weekly schedule for as long as I can manage it. I'll be posting one episode every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, in all formats in both languages. It's gonna be a bit rocky to start. The video for this very episode won't be going up for a few more days, but I'll do my best to keep to that cadence. That's enough logistics. Last time I asked for questions, and you've certainly had plenty since we launched. By far, the most common is, what can I do? No, actually, specifically, what can I personally do? Coming up very closely behind that is, you know this will never work, right? These are both important enough questions that they deserve a whole episode to themselves. I'll be tackling the first today. That's not all the feedback I've gotten, though, and so I have a couple clarifications to make. I may be an author, but that doesn't mean I always know the right words to say, and sometimes the meaning that comes across isn't the one I'd intended. I consider that a failure on my end. My goal is to spread hope, not fear, and if I haven't communicated that properly, that's my fault, not yours. In Episode 2, What It Will Take, I introduced the concepts of systems reliability and failure states, using a few examples from across human society. A DMV, a wall clock, and an electric power grid. That made some listeners uncomfortable in this world where our jobs are continually being replaced by machines, and in retrospect that was extremely predictable. In hindsight, I wish I'd clarified how not all systems are man-made, and not all systems even have a function. Some, like our solar system, simply are. It didn't occur to me, though, and so I'll just apologize for the discomfort and work on doing better next time. The other slip-up on my part I'd like to call out is from Episode 5, No Confidence. I mentioned that state legislators would be unlikely to support ratification of the No Confidence Amendment, especially now because it would be too risky. I really ought to have clarified the kind of risk I was talking about here. The risk is not to the American public, but to the legislators themselves. The last few months before a re-election are an extremely vulnerable time for any politician. That's a short enough time period that making an unpopular decision will still be fresh in voters' minds when they go to the polls, and that could destroy a political career. As much as they might personally like to help us, as much as they might believe in the principles of no confidence, acting without the visible public support of their constituencies could destroy their very livelihood, and I won't ask that of anyone. This is one of the ways the system discourages our legislators from acting, even when it would be to our best interests. That culture of caution and inaction is not an isolated phenomenon. As historian Elsie Francis writes,
what we are witnessing is a profound structural shift. The House of Representatives, originally tasked with fiercely defending our liberty, now operates with quiet passivity as the executive branch steadily erodes the Constitution's foundation. The data tells a story that is difficult to ignore. In 2023, elected officials enacted fewer than 100 laws, while federal agencies issued more than 3,000 rules. That imbalance strikes at the core of representative government. It replaces lawmaking with administration and shifts authority away from those accountable to the people.
When viewed from that perspective, our current stymied Congress is not a failed system. It is the system working according to a new design. Our current political system is set up to elect a loggerheads Congress. The evidence of that is that it has consistently done so. We cannot untie this knot using a system designed to tighten it. We must take hold of it and pick it apart ourselves. That's why our first goal is to build support for No Confidence. And based on the response I've seen to UTW so far, it's well within our grasp. I spent the month of June learning what does and doesn't work to bring new people on board. And it turns out it's really easy, on account of most people have been desperately waiting for something like this to come along. All you have to do is be willing to offer people hope. And here's how I've been going about it. Every day, I poke around on my social networks and I look for someone expressing despair about the state of U.S. politics, whether that's about the president or Congress or the Supreme Court or any of the big political machinery in this country. I've never had any trouble whatsoever on this step. Once I find someone who's despairing of things getting better or frustrated at not being able to do anything, I post a public reply to them, however is appropriate for the platform, and in that reply I do 3 things. First, I find something to agree with. This part isn't hard, but it is important. Everyone is feeling the pain of living in and or dealing with this country, but most of us in America were raised into an environment of partisan politics, of thinking of other Americans as our enemies. Partisanship got us into this mess. It will not serve to get us out. Right now, it doesn't matter whose fault it is that we got here. It matters that things now are worse than they've ever been. So when I agree with them, I say what it is I'm agreeing with, both for their benefit and for anyone else who reads the exchange, and I don't mention any political party or ideology. Someone who's complaining about conservative justices on the Supreme Court is complaining that the court has been politicized in the first place when it was always promised to be politically neutral. Anyone who can't stand how Trump is riding roughshod over our rights, institutions, and traditions is upset that Congress has utterly failed in its duty to defend the nation and the Constitution from a disloyal president. If nothing else, one thing that everyone agrees on is that the U.S. government should be more accountable to its citizens than just letting us pick the lesser of 2 evils every couple years. Second, after agreeing with them that there's a problem, I share what I'm personally doing to address it. I know, it's awful how the Supreme Court gets to do whatever they want without anyone keeping them in check. That's why I'm gathering support for an amendment that will let the American people throw them out. You're absolutely right. Our electoral system will never give us a Congress that actually cares about Americans. I'm helping start a movement called Unfucking the World that will let us finally change it. Yeah, the president can't be allowed to keep doing what he's doing. The No Confidence amendment I'm helping with will cut his term short once we can get enough support to ratify it. Or even just, yeah, it's true. Things are really awful right now. I've been listening to a podcast called Unfucking the World, and it's been giving me hope that we've got a way out of this. I'm not telling them what they must do. That basically never works on Americans. I'm not telling them that this is the only way forward. It's demonstrably not. All I'm saying is that I see the same problem they see, and that I'm actively doing something about it right now. The third and final thing is I let them know how they can find out more if they want to get involved, so they don't have to come right out and ask. The UTW.vote short link is handy for this, as is the UTW.vote/explainer link to the No Confidence text, but sometimes I'll link directly to one of the UTW articles or videos that explains more about the topic in question. Other times, I just share the name of Unfucking the World and that it's available both on YouTube and as a podcast. It depends in large part on what platform I'm on. The key I've found is to leave it open-ended and not ask for direct feedback. Right now is not the best time for being political as an American. either online or in person, and so I'm careful to avoid asking people what they're willing to support, even rhetorically. Don't you want to live in a country where gets people defensive? I would rather live in a country where gets people to empathize. I almost never get replies to these comments, but every time I write one, another 1 or 2 subscribers sign up for UTW. You can do this too. Once a day or so, when you're feeling at your best and ready to deal with the world, go look for some darkness online, and when you find it, share just a little bit of light. Just one comment, 2 or 3 sentences long. Remember when you do that you are writing not just to this one person, but for anyone who happens to see what you wrote, even if they're too shy to speak up. If the person you're replying to disagrees with you or doubts you, let them. Being one of the vanishingly few people on the internet willing to publicly say, "You don't have to agree with me, that's okay," will make your opinions stand out from the crowd basically everywhere. If you're not the kind of person that engages with social media, you can do this in person too. It's the same 3 steps. Agree, share, inform. Just once a day. Every single day you can scrounge up the energy to do it. It might seem implausible, in the face of everything going wrong in 2026, that something so tiny, just you bringing a tiny bit of hope into one single person's day, as our country of hundreds of millions falls apart around us, could possibly make a difference on a big enough scale to change things. I'll admit, I had trouble believing that myself before I launched UTW. All the logic, analysis, and intuition in the world could tell me that no confidence is needed, that America does want this, but I just didn't have any numbers to back it up. My friend, you are the one who brought me those numbers, and for that I am grateful beyond words. With the kind of support that you demonstrated simply by being willing to listen to someone you'd never heard of before, you've proven that not only do we have the kind of momentum that can build into a movement powerful enough to reshape our government, we can do it faster than anyone, even I, ever imagined. Fair warning, I'm going to get a little more into the numbers next time, but I'll do my best to keep it interesting. Aside from that, there is one other type of feedback I've heard a few times since I launched UTW, which I suppose I should address. I won't bother to repeat it here because it's a little too vulgar for unfucking the world. I'll just say that the reality where I cared even a fraction of an inkling what anyone wants to call me bears absolutely zero resemblance to this one. Our government is falling to pieces around us, and people think I care about pronouns. Please. Right. Anyway, fair warning, I'm going to get a little more into the numbers next time, but I'll do my best to keep it interesting. Aside from that, my friend, spread hope, but stay safe. Thank you for being part of UTW as we move forward. I've personally found that the practice of consciously finding hope I can share with people every single day has paid off in more ways than just subscriber count. My depression is easier to shrug off when it gets bad. It's easier for me to interact with other people in person, and I have more energy for everything I do. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one, and do me a favor and hit that like button if you're so inclined. UTW is and will always be free, but that means I don't have the insight of who's willing to send me money to remind me that what I'm fighting for is worthwhile to more people than just me. Questions, challenges, additions, and thoughtful disagreements are encouraged in the comments at utw.vote/help. Bring your good faith, and others will do the same. Today's topic. Have you tried advertising no confidence or UTW to anyone you know, either in person or online? How did it go? Share this with someone you know who brings light into the world, and stay safe.